At precisely 07:15 on the morning of October 4th, 2025, deep inside Russian territory, 600 meters from the Ukrainian border, a $500 million killing machine glides through the murky waters of the Volga-Baltic waterway. The Russians believe they've outsmarted Ukraine's Black Sea drone swarms by taking this inland route. They have no idea that in less than 60 seconds, their prized missile corvette Grad will be ripped apart and sent to the bottom of the lake in a fireball that will shake the Kremlin to its core. Miles away, hidden in the shadows, a Ukrainian Special Operations Forces technician stares at a screen, finger hovering over a button that will change naval warfare forever. This isn't just another drone strike. This is the culmination of a 3-month intelligence operation that tracked the Grad through every kilometer of its journey from the Baltic Sea, waiting like a patient predator for the perfect moment to strike. Destroying this warship means silencing one of Putin's most lethal missile platforms, one that has rained terror on Ukrainian cities for months. The Grad's sophisticated defense systems were engineered to intercept supersonic cruise missiles in open ocean combat, not a swarm of low-flying drones skimming the shoreline like angry hornets. The ship is a technological marvel, but it's about to become a $500 million coffin, blind to the real threat closing in. But here's what makes this mission absolutely insane. The impossible part wasn't the final attack. It was getting there in the first place. So, how do garage-built drones smuggled across 600 miles of hostile territory take down a Russian warship protected by cutting-edge defense systems? This is asymmetric warfare at its most brilliant and brutal. For 3 months, Ukrainian intelligence operatives became ghosts, using satellite feeds and insider intelligence to track the Grad's every movement. But the real mission kicked off just 72 hours before the strike. A single cargo truck departed from a warehouse near Bryansk, its manifest declaring cheap furniture for local markets. Hidden inside false compartments welded into the truck's frame were 5 Wild Hornet drone kits, disassembled and packed with military precision. For 3 agonizing days, the SSO team drove deeper into enemy territory, using carefully cultivated contacts to slip past security checkpoints where one wrong answer would mean capture, torture, and a mission scrubbed from official records forever. This is where Ukrainian tactical genius truly shines. Flying drones 600 miles would be suicide, burning over 70% of battery capacity just to reach the target. By assembling on-site just 3 miles from the lake's edge, they preserved every precious watt of power for evasive maneuvers and the killing blow. At 0700 hours, with batteries at maximum capacity, the swarm lifted silently into the morning fog. Their 10-minute launch window slammed shut behind them. Now, the ground team's own countdown began, racing to disappear before Russian patrols discovered their assembly point. At 0711, the calm on the Grad's bridge explodes into chaos. The radar operator who initially dismissed the contacts as electronic ghosts now sees 5 solid targets screaming across the water at less than 100 feet altitude. Alarm klaxons shriek through the corridors. Instantly, the ship's TK-25E electronic warfare suite erupts to life, flooding the lake with a digital hurricane designed to sever the drone's connection to their operators and scramble their GPS navigation. It's like trying to make a phone call in the middle of a rock concert. Total electromagnetic chaos. The problem for the Russians? These drones aren't making phone calls. Their flight paths are pre-programmed into an artificial intelligence brain capable of completing the entire mission without a single command from base. The communications jamming is completely useless. The GPS spoofing, however, is a different beast entirely. The TK-25E begins feeding the drones false coordinates, attempting to convince their navigation systems they're hundreds of miles over Siberian wilderness instead of closing in on a Russian warship. This is where Ukrainian garage innovation destroys a multi-million-dollar defense system. The hacked Ardu pilot AI doesn't blindly trust GPS. It cross-references satellite data with internal compass readings and accelerometers. When GPS claims you're in Siberia, but inertial sensors confirm you're still over water, the AI recognizes the deception. It starts frequency hopping, scanning thousands of channels per second, hunting for authentic signals like a speed reader flipping through a book searching for one true sentence. To overwhelm the jamming system, the swarm executes its first tactical maneuver. 5 drones split into 2 formations. 2 climb slightly higher, making themselves irresistible targets for Russian electronic warfare. They are sacrificial pawns in a deadly chess game. The bait works flawlessly. As the TK-25E concentrates its energy on the 2 decoys, the remaining 3 slip through the electronic net like shadows. The decoys are fried, tumbling silently into the water, but they've accomplished their mission. The primary strike group has penetrated Russian defenses, and now the crew knows they're not fighting radar ghosts. They're fighting a coordinated assault designed to kill them. Through the fog, the barrels of the AK-630 close-in weapon systems begin to spin with a sound like the universe tearing itself apart. At 0713 hours, the Grad's AK-630 CIWS unleashes hell, a buzzsaw of tungsten death chewing through morning air at 10,000 rounds per minute. A solid wall of metal fragments shreds the water's surface, transforming mist into lethal hailstorm. On the bridge, the Russian captain screams orders as the ship attempts to maneuver, but in shallow, narrow channels. It moves like a whale trapped in a bathtub, a desperate, clumsy dance against an enemy too fast to catch. Sailors with AK-74 rifles line the deck, firing blindly into fog. A completely futile gesture. This wall of steel should be impenetrable. On paper, it is. But here's the fatal flaw Ukrainian planners bet the entire mission on. The AK-630 was engineered to shoot down sea-skimming missiles in open ocean. Its guns physically cannot depress low enough to engage targets hugging the water just a few hundred meters away. It's simple geometry, a weakness no software update can fix. Shooting at these drones is like trying to swat a fly on your own knee with a sledgehammer. The physics make it impossible. The remaining 3 Hornets execute their deadly dance, dropping even lower, using rocky shoreline for cover, forcing the CIWS targeting computer to constantly recalculate firing solutions. It's a processing nightmare. The system cannot track 3 erratically moving targets simultaneously. It gets confused, spitting out firing solutions half a second too late. The lead Hornet's infrared camera cuts through chaos, locking onto the one thing that matters: the bright, beautiful heat signature of the Grad's engine exhaust. It ignores the storm of lead and begins its final attack run. The other 2 Hornets peel off deliberately, making themselves bigger targets, drawing fire away from the killer. The CIWS computer, finally breaking free from confusion, locks onto one decoy. A stream of tracers connects and the drone vaporizes in a spray of carbon fiber and electronics, but it's too late. The sacrifice bought the lead attacker 3 precious seconds. The guns fall silent as they traverse to a new target. The lead Hornet is through the storm, battery at 40%, 2 drones remaining, and the ship's last line of defense screams to life. The Igla surface-to-air missiles are hot. At 0712 hours, the first SAM roars off the rail. This is a guided killer, an infrared heat seeker designed for one purpose: find the hottest thing in the sky and fly straight into it. In response, the Grad launches a cloud of decoy flares, each burning hotter than a drone engine, designed to confuse missiles. This is textbook defense. It should work. But Ukrainian AI wasn't written from textbooks. It was trained in the brutal classroom of Black Sea combat, fed thousands of hours of data on the exact heat signature of Russian flares. The AI in the lead Hornet sees the flare cloud for what it is: a cheap magic trick. It holds course. The missile, however, lacks sophistication. It has a primitive brain that sees multiple heat sources and gets confused. This is when the final desperate gambit unfolds. The second drone, the last remaining wingman, deliberately overclocks its engine. It's a suicide move, pushing the motor beyond breaking point, creating a massive, irresistible bloom of heat. It becomes the brightest thing in the sky. The Igla takes the bait, changing course, locking on to the sacrificial drone. The plan works perfectly until it doesn't. The missile doesn't need a direct hit. Its proximity fuse detonates 10 feet from the decoy, blasting it into fragments. but the explosion sends a wave of white-hot shrapnel tearing through air. The lead Hornet, flying just 50 yards away, gets caught in the blast wave. Its port wing is shredded. The drone lurches violently, an ugly gash ripped across its fuselage, a trail of smoke leaking from its damaged battery pack. On the SSO technician's screen, a dozen red warnings flash. Battery life plummets to 20%. The connection flickers. The last Hornet is through the fire, but its crippled, bleeding energy, and now faces final desperate, point-blank fire from the ship's crew. Can a wounded bird still take down a giant? At 0714 hours and 30 seconds, this is no longer high-tech warfare. It's a bar fight, and the Grad is swinging with everything left. The deck erupts in frenzy of small arms fire. AK-74 rounds ping uselessly off the Hornet's composite shell. The impacts aren't strong enough to destroy the drone, but they don't have to be. Each hit is a tiny earthquake to delicate gyroscopes, forcing the wounded AI to make thousands of micro-corrections per second just to fly straight. The Russian electronic warfare operator, seeing automated systems have failed, tries one last desperate move. A manual brute force jam, a focused high-energy blast of radio waves, a digital shotgun aimed directly at the drone's brain. For a moment, the SSO technician's control link flickers and dies, but the Ukrainians planned for this exact moment of desperation. As the radio link is severed, a backup system activates. A fiber optic cable spooled out behind the drone, maintaining a perfect, unbreakable connection. You cannot jam a beam of light with radio waves. The final gambit has failed. The last Hornet, battered and smoking, is now inside 500 yards. The Russian sailors on deck stop firing. They can see it now, a wounded Hornet wreathed in smoke, and they know their rifles are just toys. They can only watch. The AI, sensing victory, makes its final calculation. It reroutes the last drops of power from damaged wing stabilizers directly to the main thruster. It's all or nothing. Battery at 10% and dropping fast. The FPV camera feed fills with the target, the engine's glowing exhaust port. 5 seconds to impact. Battery critical. The last thing the Russian crew sees is the drone's single unblinking optical eye locked directly onto the heart of their ship. The Hornet's camera feed is now filled with nothing but target, the bright glowing maw of the engine's exhaust vent. On deck, the frantic shooting of Russian sailors dissolves into stunned silence. They can only watch the inevitable. This is the brutal reality of physics. A 950-ton warship needs 15 agonizing seconds to change course in shallow waters. The drone's AI, even wounded, makes 1,000 course corrections in the time it takes a human to blink. There is no heroic last-second maneuver that can save them. As the drone closes the final distance, the second mission is already underway. Miles away, the SSO ground team's truck is already rolling. They don't wait for confirmation. The launch is their signal to vanish. By the time the Grad becomes a fireball, they will have ghosted onto a remote logging road. The truck's Russian license plates will be swapped for civilian Karelian ones. The false furniture compartments will be removed, the truck filled with crates of local produce. If stopped at a checkpoint, they are just lost merchants hauling vegetables. The Hornet's 8-pound-shaped charge doesn't just explode. It performs a magic trick of physics known as the Monroe effect. In less than a microsecond, the explosive charge forges the warhead's copper liner into a single needle-thin jet of molten metal, screaming at over 18,000 miles per hour like a bullet from hell. It punches through the engine block steel housing as if it were wet paper. This is the key unlocking the door. The molten jet instantly atomizes diesel in the fuel lines, triggering catastrophic detonation inside the engine compartment. The ship's own hardened hull, designed to keep explosions out, now serves to contain the blast in. It's like detonating a bomb inside a phone booth. The pressure wave has nowhere to go. It rips through bulkheads and in 1.3 seconds finds what it's looking for: the magazine where Kaliber cruise missiles are stored. The sympathetic detonation is instantaneous. The Grad transforms from Baltic badass to lakeside barbecue, courtesy of a $10,000 drone and Ukrainian ingenuity. But the real damage isn't just one ship. It's the strategic nightmare it just created. The 680-mile Volga-Baltic waterway, Russia's secret highway for moving 30% of its fleet is now a confirmed kill zone. The Grad was the lifeline feeding Kaliber missiles to the Caspian flotilla. Now that supply chain is severed. Just like the sinking of the Sergei Kotov paralyzed logistics in the Sea of Azov, this single strike creates weeks of delay. It's like unplugging a washing machine mid-cycle. Not only is the floor flooded, but the whole house is chaos for weeks. While Russian generals scramble, the information war explodes. Grainy drone footage goes viral on Telegram, racking up millions of views. The Russian Ministry of Defense calls it a technical incident, the same tired excuse they used for the Kerch Bridge. Except NASA and Planet Labs satellite imagery shows the world a different story. A blackened warship dead in the water 400 miles inside Russia. You cannot hide that. The myth of an untouchable Russian heartland is shattered, and the psychological impact is immediate. This brings us to the final strategic checkmate. This single strike forces Moscow into a nightmare dilemma. They now must pull precious Panzer S-1 air defense systems away from front lines in Donbass just to guard their own canals. Every system pulled back to play defense is another open door for Ukrainian jets in the east. They must now choose: protect warships in the rear or protect troops on the front. It's a no-win scenario. The final math is devastating. A $10,000 Wild Hornet just defeated a $500 million warship. That's a 5 million % return on investment that would make Wall Street bankers weep. This isn't just a victory. It's a new doctrine. Ukraine proved that cheap, smart swarms can make modern navies obsolete. According to defense analysts, repeating this kind of success could fundamentally alter the entire conflict timeline. It's strategic checkmate delivered from the back of a truck. So now the question is for you. If you were commanding the next SSO deep strike team, what would be your target? Another warship caught in the canals, or would you go for infrastructure itself, like a critical canal lock to cause maximum chaos? Drop your tactical plan in the comments below.